Well, in other news, the Minot Sertoma Club honored two of its longtime volunteers today for their service to mankind. Retirees Richard Halbert and Charles Goodman volunteer at the annual Christmas in the Park since it started in 1996. That's 28 years ago. They both take over the booth sales during Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve. The Sertoma Club gifted them with a $500 donation to a charity of their choice under their name.
It was one of those things that it worked out. We always went to midnight mass on Christmas Eve, and it wasn't until midnight, and so we were always at home.
Halbert chose to donate to Bishop Ryan Catholic School, where his children and grandchildren attended. He says the funds will go towards scholarships for students who may need them. Organizer of the Christmas in the Park event, David Gowan, says the event started as a fundraiser and has been going on since.
It's absolutely wonderful because we have a hard time filling the booth at, we open at 5:30, goes till 10:30.
Gowan says the club makes up to $75 grand at Christmas events and at the Christmas event, and it goes to scholarship funds, T-ball for kids in Minot, and other charities. He says they plan to continue the holiday events at Oak Park in Minot and sees it to grow even bigger in the years to come.